In a quaint town, nestled between rolling hills and sprawling forests, stood an old train station that had seen better days. It was a charming place, with weathered wooden benches, rusted iron fixtures, and a small ticket booth that seemed almost a relic from a different era. Every day, passengers bustled through the station, coming and going on their journeys, some heading off to nearby cities for work, others returning from weekend getaways. But amidst the routine of arrivals and departures, something extraordinary was happening. Just before sunset each evening, a majestic lioness appeared at the station. Her golden fur glistened in the soft light, and though she was an apex predator, there was an air of grace about her. The townspeople were initially terrified. A lion roaming freely in their neighborhood was beyond comprehension. But as days turned into weeks, their fear began to morph into curiosity. What could bring such a magnificent creature to a small-town train station? Mr. Harris, the old station master, had watched the lioness with a mixture of intrigue and concern. He had dedicated his life to the station, working there for over 40 years, and the sight of a lion, that was something that no one could have prepared him for. Every evening, without fail, the lioness paced near the platform, her eyes fixed down the tracks as if she were waiting for something or someone. At first, Mr. Harris had moved cautiously about the station, ensuring that passengers stayed at a safe distance. He often found himself wondering about her story. In his mind, images of loyal dogs waiting for their owners struck a chord. But a lion, that was a different tale altogether, one filled with instinct, strength, and an understanding of deep emotional bonds. As days turned into weeks, the lioness's presence became a part of the town's routine. Children asked their parents countless questions about her, and adults began to discuss the lioness over coffee at the local diner. Some suggested calling animal control, but others felt a strange kinship with the creature, believing she posed no actual threat. After all, she had only observed the comings and goings of trains, showing no aggression, just a longing that seemed palpable to even the most skeptical of townsfolk. One late afternoon, as the golden sun dipped below the horizon, a little boy named Ben wandered over to the lioness, curiosity sparkling in his deep brown eyes. Ben was about 7 years old, a lively child with a penchant for adventures that often landed him in trouble. But that day, he felt a pull toward the mysterious animal. He crouched down and scoured the remnants of his lunch bag, pulling out a half-eaten sandwich. Without thinking, he approached her and left the food near her paws. To his surprise, the lioness didn't even glance at the offering. Instead, she lifted her head, her nostrils flaring as she sniffed the air. A low, mournful sound escaped her throat, resonating through the warm evening air. It was almost akin to a sigh, a sound that stirred something in Ben's chest, a profound sadness that he could not comprehend. The lioness was not interested in food. There was something else she sought. Over the next few weeks, Ben continued to visit the lioness, bringing her snacks, but they were always met with indifference. Instead of feeding her, he began to observe her more closely. Each night, she took her same position, waiting quietly and steadfastly. It was as though she were an ancient statue on guard, her patience unwavering against the backdrop of a changing world. His parents, although initially alarmed, soon began to appreciate the bond that was forming between their son and the lioness. They would often accompany him, keeping their distance but marveling at the unlikely friendship. They could see the connection Ben felt, and while they still cautioned against getting too close, it was hard not to feel a sense of reverence for this beautiful creature. As the warm summer days turned into crisp autumn nights, the small town became aware of the heartbreak hidden behind the lioness's stoic watch. News soon spread about the events leading up to her arrival. A local journalist caught wind of the story and approached Mr. Harris during one of his evening shifts. It was comforting to share the account, and Mr. Harris would share all he knew. Months prior, a wildlife rescue team had discovered an injured lion cub near the railway tracks of a distant city, frightened and alone. The adult lioness, the cub's mother, had been nowhere to be found, and in an effort to save the young lion, the rescuers took him to a wildlife sanctuary far away. Everyone assumed the lioness had perished or moved on, leaving her cub to fend for itself. But that was far from the truth. The woods echoed with the mother lion's frantic roars, as she searched tirelessly for her lost child. Night after night, she retraced her steps through the wilderness until a glimmer of hope led her, unknowingly, to the train station. With an infinitely wedded sense of hope, she began her vigil near the platform, waiting for the foreshadowed reunion the universe might bring. Upon sharing this heartbreaking tale, tears welled in the townspeople's eyes as they began to understand the reality behind the lioness's unyielding presence. This was not just an animal. This was a mother who refused to abandon her search. The station became a place of reverence. People began to leave flowers near her waiting spot, softly whispering words of comfort as they passed. Children spoke of her with wonder, seeing her as a queen of sorts, the embodiment of maternal love and longing. One fall evening, as the wind rustled through the trees, Ben, now more attuned to the lioness's feelings, approached her once again. For the first time, he sat down at a distance, but close enough to be able to speak softly. "I know you're looking for your baby," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I hope he comes back soon." The lioness shifted her gaze slowly toward him, a profound understanding passing between them. It was a moment of connection that transcended human and animal. It was a shared experience of longing and hope. Word of the lioness spread beyond the borders of the town. Tourists began to come, intrigued by the crown jewel of the train station. As more people heard her story, the town felt a sense of duty to take action. They realized they could not let this heart-wrenching vigil continue without doing something. Encouraged by a deep sense of compassion, a committee was formed to reach out to the wildlife sanctuary, directly explaining the situation and advocating for the lioness and her cub. As weeks turned into months, the townspeople began to organize events to raise awareness about wildlife preservation. They held charity runs, bake sales, and storytelling evenings, where children could express their creativity while fundraising to help support rehabilitation efforts for rescued wildlife. A local artist painted a stunning mural of the lioness gazing down the tracks, a vivid encapsulation of her heartrending journey. The mural became a gathering spot where children and adults alike would gather to share their stories and discuss ways they could help protect wildlife. The townspeople also reached out to various animal rights organizations, forming connections that would help shed light on the plight of animals like the lioness. They learned about the dangers facing wildlife, the habitat destruction, poaching, and hazards posed by human encroachment. Every flyer they distributed carried the lioness's tale, serving as a poignant reminder of a mother's love and the lengths she would go to in search of her child. Months slipped by as the community rallied together. Hope bloomed in the hearts of the townspeople as they awaited the return of the cub. Finally, their patience bore fruit. The sanctuary contacted them with encouraging news. After nearly 6 months of rehab and care, the sanctuary felt the cub was ready to return home. They coordinated a special train to bring him back, and the town buzzed with excitement. The day arrived, and anticipation roared through the air like the wind. The sun began to dip low in the sky as townsfolk gathered at the station, their hearts pounding at the prospect of witnessing the reunion. Children held brightly colored signs that read, "Welcome home." Some people brought picnic baskets filled with treats, while others decorated the waiting area with flowers and ribbons, their hearts echoing the ambiance of the moment that would unfold. As the distinct sound of the train whistled in the distance, the crowd grew silent, holding their breath in unison. The train pulled into the station, its brakes squealing, and anticipation hung thick in the air. When the doors opened, people hesitated, eyes wide and cautious. Tension simmered as everyone awaited that moment, that electric instant when mother and cub would at last be reunited. From inside the train, a familiar scent wafted through the crowd, and the cub hesitated briefly, appearing timid despite being larger than he had been when separated. The townspeople waited with bated breath until, suddenly, he caught the unmistakable scent that ignited deep within his memory. Then, like a spark igniting a flame, the cub sprang from the train with an exuberant roar, bounding across the platform toward the lioness. Gasps erupted from the crowd, eyes wide with awe, as the lioness turned her head, recognizing the sound that had been absent from her life for far too long. The moment felt like a slow-motion embrace, paws hitting the earth, hearts racing as mother and cub met. She crouched down, and in a flurry of golden fur, they collided, a powerful display of pure love. The sound of the train faded into the background, the world around them melting away as the two connected in a dance of joy and relief. There, in the soft light of dusk, the mother nuzzled, her cub gently licking his fur, making those familiar low sounds that spoke of comfort and belonging. The crowd watched with tears streaming down their faces, overwhelmed by the depth of emotion unfolding before them. This wasn't merely a reunion. It was a triumph of love and resilience against the odds. The lioness, once so regal and distant, now beamed with vigor, and the townsfolk felt an indescribable warmth in their chests. In that moment, they understood that the bond between a mother and child transcended species, resonating within the core of all living beings. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of pink and orange, the mother and cub began to walk away from the station. Committed, they headed toward the wilderness nearby, the very place they had once called home, now woven deeper together through the town's affections, finding solace in each other once again. In the days that followed, the lioness and her cub became a tale as old as time. They were no longer a mere spectacle, but an integral part of the town's spirit. The station became known as Hope Station, a place where dreams of reunion and the narratives of love reigned supreme. The story of the lioness served as a catalyst for conservation efforts and a reminder of the deep emotional connections that bind us all, human or animal. As seasons changed and the years rolled on, the town flourished with compassion rooted in the bond formed from that simple act of kindness. The mural remained a powerful symbol, its colors vibrant against the brick, reminding everyone who passed through of the unyielding strength of familial love and the lengths one would go to protect it. New generations would visit the station, eager to learn about the lioness and her cub. They found inspiration in their story, often leaving flowers and mementos, while sharing their dreams of becoming wildlife advocates. The legacy of the lioness instilled a sense of responsibility in the youth, propelling them to become stewards of nature, united in their mission to protect the world's purest forms of love, the animal kingdom. And although the train station may never see the lioness again, her spirit lingered, echoing through the gentle rustling of the trees and the songs carried on warm breezes. The realization would resonate, not just within the town, but beyond the station's borders, reminding everyone that love knows no bounds. It transcends barriers, connecting hearts across distances and igniting a fire of determination to advocate for the voiceless. In the end, the tale of the lioness and her cub was not just a solitary story of loss. It became a collective mission, a movement that would ripple outwards and inspire countless others to cherish and protect the love that exists within nature. And so the lioness waited not in vain, but as a beacon of unconditional love, reminding all who bore witness that family resonates deeply, whether in the animal kingdom or our own hearts.